Good evening. Breaking news, as they say. Welcome to this emergency session
Oh my God.
of the Mary Trump show.
Where are
And
my sunglasses?
we're using the word emergency loosely in this case because it's not a bad emergency. In fact, everybody, get out your champagne, pop those corks, because there has been, after 7 decades of waiting, an indictment against Donald J. Trump has been announced out of the New York DA's office. We do not know yet what the charges are. We're not here to speculate irresponsibly or drink irresponsibly for that matter.
Oh,
We're
I'm
here.
leaving.
This
We
is
can,
a
you can drink as irresponsibly as you want as long as you don't operate heavy machinery. Okay, Kurt, I have a strange feeling you're going to be kind of busy tonight with media hits. So why don't you start? And I have to confess, I'm not entirely sure what to do with myself. It's a little weird. It's like not quite sinking in yet.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's almost comical because everything that we thought we knew about this situation was completely wrong. Like
Completely
everybody
wrong.
was wrong. So let
Except
that
Alvin Bragg.
right. Yes, yes. So let that be a lesson to everybody. The back and forth of this over the last 7 to 12 days has really been something. But the most important thing here is, and there's going to be a lot of noise, a lot of misinformation. It's going to go into full gear. Is everyone needs to understand that this wasn't a single individual making a unilateral decision to indict the former president of the United States. This was a jury, a grand jury. That means I think 8 of the 12 at least had to sign off after hearing the evidence, after hearing testimony, after hearing from all sides that are a part of this. They then collectively made a decision to indict Donald Trump. I don't think it was lost on those jurors the gravity, the historical nature of the proceeding that they were involved in. I don't think that neither them nor the Manhattan DA's office is going to pursue something like this with so much at stake haphazardly, and that they all reached the conclusion that the burden of proof was not just met, but frankly exceeded beyond any possible reasonable doubt. And so they made
they
this
don't have to
decision.
meet that standard.
Right.
Though.
That's
I really want to. As a lawyer, I'm going to
No,
tell
no, no.
you.
I'm not saying. I'm saying just the human nature side of this, as knowing what was going to happen, knowing the gravity of the situation, knowing all that's going to happen in terms of the fire that's going to be brought right to their doorstep by Trump's allies and propagandists. As a human being, and I'm saying this not as a legal expert. I'm not a legal expert, but just I think it's just human nature that when you look at what's going to go on and you get these presentations and these evidence and this testimony, like in the back of your mind, you are aware that this is a big deal. This is not just your average trial or situation or congregation. Like this is historic and will be scrutinized to the nth degree, and that at some point your identity could be exposed and your life could be in danger because you are a part of this. I think those are all elements that from a human standpoint I think is really interesting, compelling, and and it shouldn't be lost on us. As again, the legal experts are going to weigh in on this. There's going to be a lot of legal discussions as well. There should be, but I do think that there's a human element of this, and I think that's important because what's going to happen next is people like Jim Jordan, people like James Comer are going to try to use the power that they have in Congress to find out who these grand jurors are, expose them, and literally put a bullseye on their back.
I just think it's important that, real quick, that Trump just Truth Social sent out that he hasn't been indicted; he's been indicated.
Hey,
Mary, can I jump in whenever?
Yeah, just give me 1 second, Jim, because
Okay.
I want to build on what Kurt said. The legal aspects of this are monumentally important, absolutely. But right now the only lawyer among us is Jen. I want to stick, and obviously Jen has her own human perspective as
I'm
well
a
as the legal
human
perspective.
first.
I know. So I want to
I'm
stick
not
with
going to bring everyone down with legal shit, Mary.
No, I don't think it's bringing anybody down. We need to understand this so we can counter the insanity that's going to come from the Republicans in Congress, which, by the way, will be a huge breach of the rule of law and what it means to have separation of powers and all that other stuff. So we'll get to that later. But I want anybody who has been saying, and look, I know we got faked out, we got demoralized, we got impatient, and then the grand jury went on a 3 to 4 week hiatus. So I understand the frustration, but I think it pushed some people to say, this one's not that important. If this goes first, it's going to kind of taint or undermine the more serious indictments that are potentially coming out of Fulton County, Georgia, or the Jack Smith investigation. To which I say this: first of all, when is the last time a white man as powerful as Donald Trump was held accountable for something this, comparatively speaking, minor? I don't think it's minor. It is, comparatively speaking, compared to stealing classified documents and inciting an insurrection and trying to rig an election. But this is the kind of thing that most really powerful rich white guys just get swept under the rug.
No president's ever been indicted.
That's right. So in that regard alone, it isn't nothing. And you know what, guys? This is the first time in his entire criminal life, and not just criminal, the man has caused incalculable damage to countless people over the course of his life. This is some measure of justice for those who will never get their day in court. Let's please not minimize it. Let's celebrate it and feel like we feel some vindication here. And as I wrote earlier, we've been hearing time and time again that the wheels of justice grind slow. We're going to watch them grind fine. Aren't we, Jen Taub?
I'm just pausing.
You're giddy. You're giddy.
It's not even giddy. It's I'm bathed. My whole life is now bathed in endorphins. All the light is beautiful. Everything is good and right about the world. I am leading with vibes. I literally was jumping up and down in my house. I was so full of energy, of happiness, that I opened my front door in my little college town and I shouted, "Yay," out the front door, and I shut the door. And then I opened the door and shouted, "Merry Christmas." And then I went inside and, but there's no but. I'm what I'm shocked about is people who I know in the know said, well, there's going to be a 3-week hiatus. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to chill out. And I had a very late night getting ready for the Booked Up podcast today. And I took a late afternoon nap and I literally was asleep. And what's so funny is our thing is that we haven't been able to sleep through the night ever since the last few weeks, and I was finally sleeping like a baby, and I woke up to a living dream. I'm super happy, but the legal thing I'm excited about that I actually know is what will happen next after the arraignment. Well, I'm very excited about fingerprinting and booking photos.
Unfortunately, it's electronic fingerprinting, not ink. But
never uttered before. I'm excited about fingerprinting.
But
that.
once the arraignment is done, at that point, Donald Trump has his lawyers will have the ability to file a motion to try to dismiss or reduce the indictment. And there's like a statute, and it's, in other words, yes, he's going to do the usual things that he would do, but it's not, the indictment doesn't go away in the meanwhile. You know how sometimes he'll do something, get a new judge with the Mar-a-Lago thing, or you'll get this like injunctions overturned or whatever. No, the indictment is the indictment is the indictment, and it's going to be there. He's not going to be able to get it overturned. He's going to try, and then boom, That's, from the right. And then boom, we're going to get Fulton County. And then boom, boom, we're going to get, it's just going to be a delicious celebration of justice for the next few months. And, March was in like a lion, out like a fucking lamb to slaughter. And I have nothing to say other than this is a joyous occasion because no one deserved accountability more than this guy. And of course, innocent till proven guilty.
Of course.
Of course.
You're adding that in there.
Everything is alleged. Except, I'm sorry, you know what? Except Georgia. I am a hearing person. I heard the audio tape. Brian, the media has present company accepted, fell for it again. And first thing I want to ask, or it's sort of a rhetorical question, they've learned their lesson, haven't they?
No.
They're going to have to think very.
We haven't learned our lesson. We never will. We dance to the Donald's beat. That's when he comes out and sings. We're there with an aria.
Wow, that was quite something. Yeah. What a damning indictment. We danced to Donald.
That was beautiful. I'd love to hear your voice, Brian.
Listen, man.
Well, the band will be playing Saturday night. You can come out and see us.
But you missed your calling, Brian. You missed your calling.
No. I just do this as a sidebar. My main.
I mean, Mary's got guitars behind her. You two should really get together.
That's
it. Hey.
I'll say this: the media won't learn because we're all tuned into the money, and Donald brings the when he steps out on stage, the whole theater fills up. People want to watch the fool on stage. I think it's going to be interesting to see. Jen pointed to something I really agree with. I think it's going to be this is the jab. Where's the body blow? Where's the uppercut? That's all still coming.
Yep.
Watching Donald freak out over this is absolutely, for me, hilarious. I remember one day in the White House, I walked upstairs into upper press, and mind you, I was 20 feet away from the Oval Office, and I can remember Donald screaming at his chief of staff to turn the heat down in the Oval Office, as if Rance was his, Rance was there only to turn the heat up or down for Giordani.
As chief of staffs are want to do. It's not like it's a powerful position or anything.
Yeah, I'm really powerful. Where's the thermostat? But watching that and listening to that day, I can well imagine the histrionics that are.
Oh, hide the ketchup.
And ketchup and all the
buy stock in Heinz pronto.
It's gonna go up. But what we need to learn from this, from the press, what I continue to say that we need to learn from the press is there's a fine line between reporting the news and reporting the entertainment of the news.
Right.
And we have fallen so often for Donald's garbage that that today this is real. This is an indictment. The first time in American history that an American president, former, current, whatever, has been indicted. We need to respect that as a story, but at the same time, don't give in to Donald because, look, Mary, what he did, what he's doing, he's already set the precedent for trying to bring out more violence. He went to Waco, Texas, celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Branch Davidians. Now, the Branch Davidians, the modern militia movement was born from that. Stockpiling of weapons was born from that. The idea of the deep state was all born for that. Well, gee, what is that? That's 3 planks that stick in the Donald's base. Those are the people who venerate the people who died at Waco are core Donald Trump supporters. And when he said this is the last battle, and he came out and said this was he said it's an attack on free and fair elections. We can't give him the oxygen to let him inflame his base so that violence will ensue. Yeah, and mind you, it's going to ensue anyway. But we live in a violent country.
And a couple of reminders of what was being celebrated at the rally in Waco. First of all, we don't know what happened. I mean, it was a horrible incident. The FBI made serious missteps. But there's plenty of evidence that the fires were set by David Koresh's people. We don't know. However, However, what they're celebrating besides the anti-government, the extremist anti-government actions and rhetoric of people like David Koresh and Timothy McVeigh, they're also celebrating a man who raped children. Okay.
And called
So
himself a Christian.
yes, and the apocalyptic quasi-religious language Donald was using at that rally
Right.
comes directly from people like David Koresh, who again raped children. This is what they celebrate. So we're celebrating the rule of law. We're celebrating the fact that this man can no longer claim to do anything he wants with impunity. But Kurt, this I think that two things can be happening simultaneously. I think on the one hand, this weakens him. On the other hand, in the eyes of many people, not his cult followers, but on the other hand, I think it ramps up the potential for danger. What's your take?
Those are absolutely true. There's no doubt that the specter of an indicted person becoming the standard bearer for one of the two major political parties in America is both unthinkable, but also very likely and plausible. And we've already seen, just before the indictment happened, the relentless threats and attacks that the Manhattan DA's office endured, and that's before they even did anything, just for even investigating something. That's going to intensify. I mean, again, we've learned after January 6th that the rhetoric is more than just for show, that these people, these cult-like followers, interpret them as marching orders and they act on them. The reality is, before it's all said and done, there's going to be situations where courtroom proceedings are disrupted by bomb threats, where protests outside of courtrooms where Donald Trump's criminality is being adjudicated will be met with violence. And no one would love to be more wrong about that than I am, but I just think that's what's going to happen, and that's by design. That's what they want to happen. And when you look at how the actors with the biggest megaphones at their disposal have conducted themselves, where we're seeing the exchanges that Rupert Murdoch had privately, referring to Donald's actions as criminal, but what they broadcast on their news networks, on their propaganda networks, was everything but that. That's just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And I mean, at this point, folks, these people have turned a mass shooting that killed children in schools into some bizarre fixation going after trans community and LGBTQ people. So if they're willing to do that when it comes to just kids being murdered in schools, there is no low too low for them to go when it comes to defending their cult leader, Donald Trump.
As low as they go lower.
Right, they will. And Kurt, you're one of the people out there who has been alerting us to and hammering on the fact that there will be violence. And we saw in New York that law enforcement is taking this seriously. They do not want a repeat of January 6th, but it's not just organized violence we need to be worried about. I mean, and I think everybody, every nerd has been saying some version of, we've got to be really worried about the stochastic terrorism. This is not a joke. I mean,
because they believe, like, in their minds, the next thing that they feel like they need to do is some kind of show of force in order to scare everybody, to back away from going after Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And so how that activity will manifest itself, I really shudder to think about what that's going to look like. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be peaceful. And it's entirely predictable and also avoidable if people actually in the Republican Party acted responsibly and cared about stopping violence. But again, this is the same group of people who just last week decided to take the Oversight Committee on a field trip to visit January 6th prisoners. So
that's right. Brian, hang on one second, because I just want to build on that quickly. It's not just the cult, it's the culture. And I'm really glad you brought up mass shootings in schools, Kurt, because just as a statistic, there have been over 2,500 mass shootings, and I don't know, not in a not very long period of time. Out of those, 3, maybe 4 were carried out by trans or non-binary
Mhm.
people, which is barely barely a tenth of 1%. The vast, overwhelming majority of those shootings are carried out by white men. I
Yep.
don't see that we're trying to ban them. We'd be better, no offense, present company accepted, but maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea. But Brian, I think we have to take them at their word. They
Yeah.
see children slaughtered in the most horrific possible way in schools, which should be safe. And what do? They expand gun rights. They expand the ability for a larger pool of people to own weapons of mass death. That's what we're dealing with here.
Well, first of all, quick update. Just got word from the Manhattan DA's office. They've been in touch with Donald Trump's attorney. They're going to arrange his surrender. We'll see how that happens.
Are we going to get
Wait. Is there more, Brian? What?
That's all that he said, Brian. I just want to let you know we just got off the phone with his attorney and we're arranging his quote surrender. So that's all I can tell you.
Wait,
at that point.
Alvin Bragg has your private number or what?
I'm
Who
not going
sent
to
that
tell
to
you
you?
my sources.
Yeah, exactly. But Jen, can you check out the private tweet?
I
Jen,
tried. What?
Sorry, this is important. Jen, can you check out the private tweet, private chat?
And then as far as, look, everybody who ever commits a horrific murder, a mass murder, a mass shooting, I'm sorry, everyone I've ever covered, these people are nuts. So whether they're trans, bi, straight, no sane person walks in and picks up a gun and starts mowing people down. Nope. The problem is that, and what really hacked me off, I was on the Hill today talking to Josh Hawley, of all people. I said, listen, man, at the very least, I have relatives or in-laws who live on farms who have stockpiled more weapons than some small countries, and they think it's too much. They're tired of it and want something done. What are you going to do? And he's like, Kurt said, all he cares about, well, we got to investigate this case because they may be insane and transgender. I go, dude, they're all insane. The first one I covered in 92 was in Luby's, and a guy drove through the front window of a Luby's restaurant, mowed down 23 people, stuck a gun under his head, and ended it. These people are not sane. The problem is you got to make sure that they don't get guns. And these people are more interested in them having guns because right now, as I said, they support Donald Trump and they want to threaten people with violence. So if you're not going to get Steve Scalise to do anything about this and he got shot in a mass shooting, you're not going to get these people to do anything about it. And that's the sad part. This guy actually walked into Trump's White House after he got mowed down smiling that, guns are free and legal. I'd go, dude, you're lucky you're breathing air.
Right. But Brian, it's not just the people who do the mass shootings who are insane. It's the people who who are like, well, yeah, let's just give them more access to more guns.
Exactly.
And and that, I think, is the Kurt, thank you so much. I know you probably have a very long night ahead of you. It was awesome to have you, and we will absolutely be talking soon. Bye.
See you, my brother.
Yeah, it is. That's the context in which everything needs to be seen and understood. It's the entirety of the Republican Party. They will stop at nothing. And Jen, we have news now that Ron DeSantis, who I guess finally realized that things aren't going well for him. I mean, he hasn't even declared his nomination yet, but the trial balloons are full of lead, apparently, and it's not going well for him. But we have news out of Florida, don't we? And can you walk us through it and let us know what it means?
Yes, so we do. Ron DeSantis has just tweeted something out, and I will tell you what he said, and then I'll give you my response. I think you'll like it. So he said, the weaponization of the legal system to advance a political agenda turns the rule of law on its head. It's un-American. The Soros-backed Manhattan District Attorney has consistently bent the law to downgrade felonies and to excuse criminal misconduct. Yet now he is stretching the law to target a political opponent. Last time I checked, Trump was more likely Ron's opponent and not a political opponent of Bragg, but whatever. Okay, and then this is the key thing. Florida will not assist in an extradition request given the questionable circumstances at issue with this Soros-backed Manhattan prosecutor and his political agenda.
Who cares?
So Soros, hey, I get the Jew call there. But here's what I responded. I quote tweeted him, "Oh, Governor, it's embarrassing to see a grown man grovel." But you know what I'm thinking? Even if Florida can extradite him, I'm pretty confident Disney World can.
And for those of you who aren't aware, Ron DeSantis has been going after Disney in various ways in a just a temper tantrum over the fact that Disney is tolerant of diversity, and they did an end run around him, which is a beautiful thing, and it takes out a major plank of his potential 2024 campaign. So I don't know, man. I do want to say this. I actually recorded a show today that won't be airing anymore because we're doing this. But I talked about it was before the indictment, obviously, and I talked about how expectations kind of got scrambled, and that we kind of need to take a step back and realize that nobody said anything about a potential indictment or arrest. Nobody except Donald. So, we were all running around with our heads cut off because this malignant narcissist, pathological liar lied. And there was a very, and I said that there is absolutely nothing Donald Trump will do to sway what a district attorney out of Manhattan decides to do vis-a-vis an indictment. Alvin Bragg may not indict, or sorry, the grand jury may not indict. They may, but Alvin Bragg is going to do his job, no matter how big a temper tantrum Donald throws, no matter how many threats Donald levels at him. And I just saw on Twitter this incredibly reasonable, calm, straight up, just the facts, ma'am, statement, which came from a spokesperson in Bragg's office. This evening, we contacted Mr. Trump's attorney to coordinate his surrender to the Manhattan DA's office for arraignment on a Supreme Court indictment, which remains under seal. Guidance will be provided when the arraignment date is selected. And Brian, that's exactly the kind of stuff I want to be hearing out of the district attorney's office.
I don't think there's any doubt that, first of all, who cares if Ron DeSantis doesn't cooperate with the Manhattan district attorney's office? He's just kissing butt to the Donald supporters. That's all that is. And at the same time, he's getting killed by Trump, at least in those supermarket polls that they take it, where you can fill out 4 or 5 forms at a time that Donald loves to quote. But the simple fact of the matter is look, the man is indicted. He'll be indicted again soon elsewhere. Then he's going to get a third one. He's going to get a fourth one. And he can threaten all the violence that he wants. As I said before, it's easier to break a law than it is to prosecute someone for breaking the law. And with a former president, it's really hard. So the patience paid off. They did their job. Bragg did his job. Jen, to your point earlier, they don't need it without a doubt to indict. They need, a preponderance of evidence. But I wouldn't doubt that they took an extra step in this case, because I'm sure Bragg wants to get himself a conviction. But nonetheless, they don't need that to indict.
It's probable cause is actually the standard.
Probable cause gets the indictment, right? So at the same time, after that probable cause is established, I'm sure he went through and said, all right, we got this. You know what? Nail. We got him. Let's do it. And I don't think I've always thought that this was the one he could most easily defend. But I think that what comes after is what's going to be interesting. And as I think I've told and said here before on this show, I know for a fact that there are representatives from the Department of Justice involved in all the investigations with and ongoing about Donald Trump. So I do know that there isn't, they're not in lockstep with the communication. I'm sure, they're going, all right, number one, All right, now tomorrow, number 2, then number 3. And then at the end of the day, it'll be Merrick Garland going, and here we go, trumping Trump. Number 10, you're out. Sign in, please. So I think it's going to proceed in a logical, Mary, to your point, a logical pace. And it's going to be fun to watch. After having all those death
Yeah,
threats,
it is, right? Right.
all those
Exactly.
death threats.
Exactly. And
Covering
that's
that SOB for 4 years,
The-
after being threatened and being, and browbeaten by his minions, it is some measure of sanity that today he was indicted.
right. And that's what I said earlier. It's like there is some measure of justice here, and it may not be enough. Like, I don't know that it's enough for me. It may not be enough for all of those contractors he stiffed over the decades. It may not be enough for the people he kept from renting in his apartment building simply because they were Black, because he's such a fucking racist. It's definitely not enough for all of the people who died from COVID because of him. But it's a start, and it isn't nothing, and we need to hang on to that. And
Well, I'm just going to get the mug shot. I'm going to hang it
Yeah,
up right behind
I
me.
mean-
and the mug shot's going on the wall, and then the second one, and then the third one.
you're
and-
the second person who said that, and I'm like, unless it's on a well, I'm not going to say that. But, I'm not putting a picture of him up in any circumstances on my wall, but I understand the impulse. But Jen, 2 things. First of all, we have the fact that people like Nikki Haley,
Eesh.
Jim Jordan, all of them are coming, and we just saw with DeSantis saying it's illegitimate, and they know as much as we do about what is in these sealed indictments.
Which means nothing.
And which, by the way, I don't know if somebody already said this, I apologize, but Donald's defense attorneys have acknowledged that they have already agreed to surrender. So sorry, Ron, you don't get any points for that. Bummer. So Jen, I mean, what do we do about that? Because it just goes back to Kurt's point. They are united in their anti-democratic, pro-autocratic push to destroy this country. Let's be clear.
Yeah,
Donald said it explicitly. They are coming for us.
This is not their day. That's what I
No.
got. This is not
So
their
sad.
day. And
However, he is still trying to. Right now, I just got an email. He's trying to fundraise off of it already.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
it's always
And he will.
Look, it's Mary. I love what you said. It's not enough, but it's something. And this is the very first something since the mashed potatoes were poured on his head. I know that makes you laugh. And you know what? I never met your father, Mary, but I'm tipping my hat to him right now.
Thanks, Dad. Wish you were here for it. Because
Although wasn't it Robert? Wasn't it Robert who poured the mashed potatoes on his head? But
how dare you? It was my father. Robert's a horrible human being. No, it was my dad.
Oh, your dad did it because
My
he was
dad
being mean
the
to Robert,
OG,
right?
Exactly.
Oh, man.
And look, guys, everybody out there, right? I want you to spread the word. This is a version of having a bowl of mashed potatoes dumped on his stupid head.
Because he was being a bully.
Because he was being a bully to somebody smaller and weaker than he was. And here we are. Finally, the mashed potatoes are being deployed appropriately.
I want to say this thing, Mary, because, we're joyful and so on. And, we are not the DA, right? Like, people are like, well, we shouldn't do this. You know what? The people people who are responsible for prosecuting stuff, they do their thing. I know I'm a citizen, and I know from reading your book and the details of his life that this is a really, really terrible person. I mean, from his childhood onward, we've seen what he's done. And you know how they always say, one of the signs of depravity is, how do children treat animals and so on.
Yep.
How about how do children treat other children? Your uncle threw rocks at a baby. You're laughing. I mean, there's nothing good about this guy.
I'm not laughing. I mean, it's like,
he's an awful, awful person. And he
Right.
said, he's, I don't even want to go through the list of things. And
74
so the idea that
million people
I
Yes.
have no shame
You're
in
right, Mary.
celebrating the fact that the law is catching up for him, and it couldn't happen to a worse human being.
Well, it could, but
Abs-
unfortunately, they're in hell right now, and
Well,
but
exactly.
I got to share something with you. This just came from CPAC. Matt Schlapp said, "We believe that the authoritarian punishment of political opponents is deeply un-American and is more akin to the proceedings of a kangaroo court in a corrupt third world banana republic." Wrong, Matt. If we didn't bring him to justice, that would be the third world banana republic.
He's lucky
I-
he's not being charged with assault.
Yeah.
No kidding. I
Matt.
have a question for both of you. Well, isn't he? I have a question for both of you. They can spin this, and they're going to spin this however they want. It's Banana Republic, which again, it's all about projection with these people. They are always blaming the left for everything they're doing.
Yes.
Donald has perfected this art. But how do they get around the fact that somebody was sent to jail, not for committing the crime Donald committed, but for helping Donald commit the crime?
Brian doesn't know who you're talking about. He's never met that person.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've never met Michael.
I don't
Cohen.
really like mentioning his name, but
But
you know, I mean, that's okay. He's a criminal. Michael Cohen is a criminal who went to prison and, you know, paid his dues, I guess, to some extent, for the crime of helping Donald Trump commit the crime that Donald Trump is now accused of. How do they? I mean, I know they can do anything because they're such grifters and liars, but seriously, like, when it all shakes out, how do they get around that?
they don't have logic. And in fact, you know, Donald himself has divorced himself from Michael Cohen and said what Michael Cohen did on his own and had nothing to do with Stormy Daniels, and that Michael Cohen is a bad person and that he's a good person, and he kicked Michael Cohen to the curb because Michael Cohen was a criminal. The only thing Michael Cohen was convicted of doing was paying off Stormy Daniels and lying about it and going to jail for Donald Trump. I'm sorry. That's what Michael Cohen went to prison for. And you can say it any other way you want, but that's just the way the Donald rolls. I mean, it's like watching an egg, you know, that it can't roll straight no matter what it does. And at the end of the day, it's going to fall off the edge of the table and splatter all over the place. That's Donnie, Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I know you guys have it's probably going to be a busy night for all of the nerds. So I'm incredibly grateful that you were able to hop on, because I know, you know, we had a very tough show on Tuesday and people are stressed out, and it's a very long time coming. So before we end, just for both of you, starting with Brian, just last word, and how are you celebrating tonight?
I'll be doing a lot of TV and radio for the next 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And then, as I am a son of Kentucky, I will be pulling out the probably either the Evan Williams or I think it's going to have to be Wild Turkey. I think that's the appropriate drink for this evening. A couple of shots of Wild Turkey, and then I'll have to get up and go to work tomorrow morning in the White House and listen to everybody say, all the reporters go, golly gee, let's go interview Donnie. Then I'll start drinking heavily again.
That's going to be tough with a hangover. My goodness.
I won't get a hangover. I'll just stay drinking.
There you go.
I'm
Jen?
reading now. Are you seeing this? That John Miller tells Aaron Burnett that his sources say Trump charges are 34 counts related to falsifying business records.
Yeah, I've got that too. Yes,
I think
That's a lot.
I don't know if this goes. I don't know if this goes beyond. Well, maybe it's both.
I think
the
it
Stormy
does.
Daniels and the other. What was her name? Karen McDougal, or maybe it goes beyond this. We'll have to see. Sorry.
Just really quickly, Jen, before
yeah,
you
yeah.
do your wrap up, I've been thinking this for a while. Again, even though I'm not a lawyer, I think that Bragg isn't playing. He is digging deep, and you know, again, not that the charge of paying hush money isn't a serious one because of the election fraud implications, but there's so much else that was going on before that. I don't think this is just one or two or three or four charges. I think we're looking at something very complex and comprehensive. And at least that seems to be. I mean, 34. Holy shit! That's not a number I had in my head. Anyway, Jen, last word. How are you celebrating?
Well, like Brian, I'm already scheduling I've already done a couple. I've got interviews, so I'm going to be I'm going to be drinking probably Diet Coke for a while, unfortunately. And after that, I'm just going to be jumping around, dancing around. I don't know if I'm going to.
It'll keep you awake.
Yeah, I'm going to maybe put on some Springsteen because I don't know if you know this, Mary. I'm going to be going to see Bruce Springsteen live.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be listening to some Springsteen in between news hits.
Of course. All right, that sounds like a plan. I too wish I could be drink. I don't have champagne because, like everybody else, I got faked out, so I didn't pick up my Veuve Clicquot. But I got some vodka in the house, and unfortunately, it's gonna have to wait until like 11 o'clock because I've got a couple of other things to. Although you know what, I was on with Katie Couric earlier, and on her Instagram live, and I'm like, is it okay if I'm drinking champagne while I'm with you? And I obviously didn't have any, but I may have to because I mean, come on, this is extraordinary. This is history. It's happening. I'm so happy you were with us. So Brian Karam, Jen Taub, Kurt Bordella. I seriously, you nerds. This is what makes the celebrations even better. I get to share them with you. Everybody listening, thank you so much. And there will
guys, there's something, Mary, there's something you say on Passover, which is like next year in Jerusalem is the thing. I mean, when we have to get together in person, next time live in New York,
Yeah,
Brian, can you get yourself to New York at some point?
Oh, it's compulsory. This has to happen. Brian's not answering. He's being coy.
I will always be in New York.
Oh, okay.
We'll be there.
Okay.
I'm 3 hours
soon.
Well, I'm not there yet. So when I get there, all right. So we're just going to end the show now. I just want to remind everybody that it's not House of Horrors, but we've got a new show happening tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. It's called The Wrap with Mary Trump. And you're going to hear me ranting about some of the news that happened this week that we didn't actually cover with the nerds. So stay tuned for that.
Rant, baby, rant.
Ben, Brian, Kurt, thank you guys so much. And have a blast doing the Snoopy dance to celebrate Indictment Day. All right, everybody. Stay safe. Be kind. We will see you soon. Bye.